can procedurally do it without, one person who's trying to make a name for themselves standing up and trying to block it.
Can we talk about your state of Florida? One of the last states, well, not all the states have participated, one of the most recent to issue this stay-at-home order. What in the world is going on down there? You got a whole lot of senior citizens, and last I checked, they're pretty high risk.
Yeah. So let me say one thing. I think for all practical purposes, we were in a stay-at-home order. Virtually every county in the state, if not every, had restrictions in place, perhaps with the exception of a handful of counties.
Senator, come on now. You and I, stop it.
Can you hear me? No, I'm serious.
Okay,
it's
but sir, hold on.
It is. I mean,
hold on, though. Those handful of counties don't have... Okay. But fine, wait. Those handful of counties don't have walls around them. You and I both saw pictures of partiers on beaches jamming on it, right? They're not bound by those counties. They can get all over the state. Come on.
Yeah, but that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Those are not recent images, and all of the counties that those videos reflect have issued orders and closed beaches themselves, or the cities themselves. So what I'm trying to say is, just because you didn't have a stay-at-home order doesn't mean people weren't staying home. There were orders in virtually all the large metropolitan counties. All of Southeast Florida had these orders. Duval County had these orders. Central Florida had these orders. About a week and a half ago, all of the Tampa Bay region had these orders. That said, I think the governor made the right decision now to implement that statewide, because I think it creates a level of uniformity. But the governor has his preference is to defer to the local level. He did that during the hurricane response, and it worked very well. That's always the preference, right? Local officials are on the front lines and you want to give them both resources, but you also want to provide them the opportunity to decide what to do at the local level. That said, I think they made the right decision at this point yesterday with regards to it.
So you support how he's handled it? You don't think he should have done it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
You know what? Honestly, I think that we will have plenty of time to look back when this is all done and see all the mistakes that were made, all the errors that were committed at every level, starting at the CDC, congressional oversight. Maybe we should have started on the relief bill a week earlier in Congress. Right now, though, we can't stop to do that. We have to focus on the emergency that's at hand right now. And then when this is over, and we hope it'll be over sooner rather than later, it's going to take some time. I think we're going to have plenty of time to look at our response and figure out what was done right and what was done wrong. That's going to happen. Accountability needs to happen. The problem is every second we spend right now on the finger pointing and at each other is a second that we're not spending on dealing with what's before us now. We can't change the past. We can learn from it, but we can only influence the future. And so that's why I'm trying to, all across the board, sort of figure out right now what we can do. Look, when this is all said and done, we're going to have some oversight over how the agencies have implemented this and whether, why did we have to spend 36 hours arguing about legislative intent with the SBA and others. But right now, I want to focus on getting the program running. And then, we'll have time for that. That'll have to happen. We have to learn from it. But we can't stop right now to do that because we've got a lot of work to do.
Well, then, with all due respect, sir, you're not immune to finger pointing yourself. Earlier this week, you called out people that share my job. And I do have to share your tweet in its entirety, or not actually its entirety because I can't get to all of it, but I'll share just the beginning where you wrote, "Some in our media can't contain their glee and delight in reporting that the U.S. has more coronavirus cases than China. Beyond being grotesque, it's bad journalism." I need to ask you this because I'm a journalist. We're not just some personalities. You called out journalism. And I need to understand why on earth you did this.
Well, because there are some journalists that were doing exactly what I said. And I posted some of their tweets. Editorial cartoonist, I think, is considered a journalist. A columnist for GQ is considered a journalist. A magazine that's distributed, at least online, is considered journalism. And every single one of those and others had headlines about how we're number one. They got that trending last Friday. Now, that's why I use the word some, just like often I read reports about how some Republicans are doing this or some members of Congress are doing that. I don't know what other word to describe who's doing something and who isn't. And I don't know what other word to use to describe these.
But if you're criticizing people for wasting...
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But, sir, just a moment ago, you said we shouldn't be wasting any time pointing fingers or criticizing. And that's exactly what you did in that tweet.
Yeah, but the difference is that this is an ongoing deal here that we're dealing with right now, and that is a Chinese propaganda effort to put out that they have handled this perfectly and we have not. And that is the national security and national interest of the United States does not stop. Now, when the orders were not in place for the governor to do that, I didn't say people couldn't criticize the decision not to implement an order, but now that decision has been made. And in the case of that reporting, maybe it's diminished in the last few days, but there were many days out there where people were basically taking the Chinese number of 80-something thousand infections and saying, look how great they did it, and look how bad we're doing it. And that's not only wrong, that's a national security issue. We know that that is a propaganda influence effort that they're undertaking along with Putin and Russia and even the Iranians. And national security and the national interest of this country does not stop because that's an ongoing concern even in the midst of this crisis.
All right, then, Senator, this is the perfect time for all of us to do everything we can to work together to face this disastrous crisis. I really appreciate you joining me this morning. I know it's a really busy time. Senator Marco Rubio from Florida.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on.